Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another FiberCast. My name is Lynn. I'm your host, and today's date is October 5th, 2016. Can you believe it? Today we're going to focus on clue number 6 of our Brown Bag Mystery Quilt. If you're making it, I'm loving to see your progress. I'm so glad you're joining us. For those of you who aren't making it yet, maybe you'll want to. And for those of you who are just watching, that's great. We're so glad to have you along. So grab a project and let's see what we can get done in these 60 minutes, which happen to be on a Wednesday, not a Friday. So let's jump right into it because we do have a lot of sewing to go. Like KB said on the quilt along, it's time to sew our brains out. There's a lot of sewing here. So welcome. Okay, first off, I printed off the clue. And as always, this isn't really a tutorial. It's more just going over the clue and working on it together. That's what FiberCast is all about every week. So I apologize if you don't see every step. We don't go over it in detail. Send me emails or post online if you have any questions, and one of us can help you. We're a community. Okay, so clue number 6 of the Brown Bag Mystery. And again, this is a Brown Bag Mystery because back 6 weeks ago when we started this, we offered Patreon subscribers a bag of fabric in a brown bag. And it ended up being a Hoffman Supernova piece, either onx or ombre. So it was either black and white or yellow and white. And 6 weeks ago, thanks to all of our patrons, we actually have now, I think I have one more bag left. I sent a bag off to Norma and Marquet, so hopefully you've gotten it. If not today, you'll get it tomorrow. And for everyone, all the other patrons, thank you. This is wonderful. Okay, so let's jump right into it. This is a big clue. We're going to do a number of things, and at the end of the clue, we're going to have the inner part of the quilt done, which will measure 43 inches by 43 inches. No, I'm sorry, there are two parts. There's 43 by 43, and then there's 57 by 57. That's what we're going to end today. You can stop here. If you decide that 57 by 57 is all you want to do, there are way too many pieces already. I will have to count them up. I'll have to do that, count up. I bet there are over 1,000 pieces in just the 57 by 57. But I encourage you to go further because now the color starts to come in. I wore my black and white because this quilt does have a lot of black and white. Just know if you stop here, it'll be more black and white, but if you keep going, there will be some other pops of color. And you probably know that because of the fabric you've already bought. So, in order to get from here to that 57 by 57 inch inner quilt, we have to do a number of things, and in the clue it outlines those number of things. First, and I thought we'd just go through them, and I'm ready to sew a number of them, and I need to crank through a lot of this. You'll notice I don't have my sample here because I have yet to finish my weather vane blocks. So that I will do this weekend at Art Is, and by next Friday I do hope to have the 57-incher behind me that you can see. No promises, but that is my goal. Okay, so let's get sewing. KB, I hope that you're still sitting upright. Your post was a riot. Let's make 12 economy inner blocks. These are going to look familiar. It's the same block we made for the outer part of the clue. And this is the one that, remember last week I said the D fabric I was running out of? Well, sure enough, I actually had to piece a couple of my triangles. But I did have enough, and you really can't tell, like my sister said, because I was texting with her last night when I was doing it, you really can't see it because it's a mottled blue anyway, so 2 of those triangles are actually pieced, but you really can't tell. So I'm pleased with that. I made 12 of them. On the website and on Facebook are the paper piecing patterns. Print out 12 of them on paper, just like we've been doing for weeks. Right? And sew these up. They're all going to be the same. And if we go to page 2, we can look at the fabric we have to cut. So we need the 12 echo squares that we cut out of the Supernova fabric on clue 3. Pull all of those apart. Do not take off the pin. Then cut from dark brown, cut 48 2x2 squares. From color H, the light tan, cut 48 2¼ by 2¼ and then cut them diagonal so you end up with 96 triangles. You'll use those in these corners. And then finally the blue, or D fabric, cut 24 2 3/4 squares and then cut them in half. So they go together fairly quickly, fairly simply. Make sure to remember to put your blue toward the center. It's easy to get one of these ends turned around, and then it'll look more like a star, which we will come to at a later date. But I'm liking it. There's a lot of good contrast in that one, huh? Okay, so I have done those. I haven't taken the papers off, but fast forward. Actually, I have paper off of one. This clue, this part of clue 6, we can call that done by the power of TV. Okay, so there's that. Now if we go to page 3, now we're starting to get into bigger pieces. And I know that a number of you enjoyed the diamonds in a square that we made that had the bigger pieces. We're making more of them. In fact, we're making 2 sets of diamonds in a square, 2 different sizes. So page 3 can be a little confusing, and I wanted to make sure to call your attention to the fact that we need to make 2 different sizes. It looks very similar because the fabric itself is very similar. But see the difference? We need 4 of these. They're 3 by 3. When they're unfinished, they'll end up being 2½ by 2½. And then we also need to make 4 of these that are 5½ by 5½. And I've cut everything out. I've printed out my paper piece. So why don't we whip through that, and then we'll check to see who's out there, and then we will keep going to the next part of the clue. So you'll see I'm making corner number 1. I have 3 left to make, and I thought that I would, and I'm sorry that this uses so much paper. I really need to figure out how to put more of these on one page. But it's the same drill that we've been doing for weeks. These are leftover triangles that I actually had, so they might look a little big to you, and they are. And just like before, I'm going to chain piece these. I'm putting it down to 1.7. And by chain piece, I mean literally, here's my second one. Oh, for anyone who's out there, when I'm recording this, Hurricane Mike, is it Michael or Matthew? Uh-oh. It's an M hurricane, is heading up through the Caribbean and it's heading to Florida. Haiti has received a ton of rain. I think I heard maybe as much as 40 inches. But I haven't heard any, well, of course, probably the electricity's out. So for any of you in the path of the storm or anywhere near it, I hope you're safe. Call your friends and family who might be down there. Mom, if you're out there, I was thinking of you today, and I was thankful that you weren't in Florida. But I'm glad to hear that so many preparations are being made. So literally, there's the first on this paper chain piecing. And I could even do my bigger ones too at the same time. Blocks don't get easier than these diamonds in a square, and they're so satisfying. In fact, don't you love the parts, the diamond in a square you do as part of Storm at Sea? I like that part of it. Looks so crisp when it's done. Oh, and Sherry, is that how I say your name? Chere? In Pennsylvania. I absolutely love your colors. I think you get the prize for being the furthest ahead. So keep on going. And I love to see that you posted the pictures. Isn't it fun? The internet opens up a whole new world to us. For those of you who are new, welcome. For our new patrons, thank you. Thank you so much for supporting the arts. Okay, I am going to keep going on the big ones here because we have a lot to do. So literally, make sure these are all the same size. They are. Make sure by this time, hopefully everyone knows, make sure when we're printing out the paper piecing patterns, not to have your printer at the setting that says fit the file to the page, because that can distort the size of these patterns, if that makes sense. Knock on wood, we haven't had any errors yet on that front. That did keep me up at night earlier in this mystery when at one point I thought we had posted a, actually I think I did post something errantly. It didn't have the seam allowance in it. The templates maybe for our original, when we originally went and traced on the Supernova fabric. I was so worried when it was printing out that it wasn't printing the seam allowance. But so far, so good, I do believe. So see how I'm just, with each pass I come back and I cut off the excess. And then we just pull this in. So, if I didn't tell you, you may wonder why we're doing this on a Wednesday. It's because I am going with my textile tart friends, Pat and Sue and Sarah and Barb and Pat. Many of whom are already down there in Connecticut tonight. Hi, if you're out there. I'm going down tomorrow for the weekend to take a couple of classes and learn from other artists. So I can't wait. It's my first time. I may have mentioned I'm taking 2 classes. One is, they both involve clay. Friday's class is using Fimo clay, and it's to make, I'm not sure if it's beads or what we're going to do, but that's all day Friday. And then on Sunday, I'm finally getting to meet Colleen Athern and take one of her paper clay classes. And in fact, I pulled out this little beauty, Colleen Colquhoun Athens, paper clay doll sculpting and charm making, and she's down in Hackettstown, New Jersey. And I don't know if you can see that. Now it's only, how big is that? 1, 2, 4 inches max. It is the most delicate, delightful little doll. I love how she made the face. The face is very simple but beautiful and smooth. and I want to learn how to do that. So I'm taking her class from 6 to 9 on Sunday, which for anyone who knows me, that is usually close to sleeping time. Carol and I would already have been asleep. Speaking of Carol, hello if you're out there. It was so good to see you this past weekend at the wedding. That's right, that's why we didn't have FiberCast last week on Friday night. There was no band either. And we all went out to Amherst, Massachusetts for a wedding, and we had a blast. It was so well done. The bride and groom were happy. They were enjoying themselves. And I got to thinking, it was just a blast. We had cousins there. We had brothers and sisters. And now don't laugh, but because I had married the groom's father's brother, and I'm cousins with his mother, I had friends from both and family from both sides. So talk about fun. And it poured. It hasn't poured here in weeks, and it poured that night. So we're getting there. This is, I don't know if I pulled it up yet, but oh, who's out there? Hey, hi Sarah. Sarah, she says, I just tuned into FiberCast, not sewing, she's packing for arts. Excellent. I can't wait. I'm curious what your bringing to art is. So Sarah and I are driving down to Stamford tomorrow. And I don't know what I'm going to bring. So many projects, so little time. I'll probably end up packing literally half my studio in the car, like I do when I go visit my mother. This summer, I think I had 2 carloads of my art supplies. It's like when I was in college, I guess. I went, there's an analogy here. I went hiking in Norway across the fjords, and there were glaciers. I mean, this was way up there. It was a wonderful opportunity. I was the only American. I was the only one who could really speak with English as my first language. People spoke English just fine, actually. But I can remember being so afraid of being so far away from home, up in the middle of nowhere, without having food, that whenever I would go anywhere to close to town, which we would do periodically, I would just pack up and I would eat things, and the joke was I came home, I think, heavier than I left. After literally some days we would hike many, many miles from hut to hut. Anyway, that's what it's like when I go on these retreats. I'm so worried about getting there and not having my materials that I overpack. That's a long way of saying I overpack. Who was that? Ding. Sarah says, okay, thank you, Sarah. I'm so glad you're out there. She says, I'm not bringing much for projects. 1 knitting and then supplies for my classes. That's good. I think you're taking at least a class more than I am. I'm so curious to see what it's like if can we pop in on other people's classes? We can talk about this tomorrow in the car. Oh, you haven't been there either. Sarah says, I don't know what to expect. Me too. Cool. Okay. So we are making progress on our diamonds. Now we're starting to see big splashes of color in the quilt. So I hope you haven't been too discouraged by all the black in the quilt. I labored over that, as you might imagine. The Hoffman Supernova panel comes in different colors, like magenta, ombre. I'm trying to think if it came in blue. Not too many colors, but there definitely were more choices than just black and ochre. See? So there's one all ready to be cut up. Let me just get my iron ready. So I decided on black because it would be so forgiving with everyone's colors. And maybe for those of you who have are seeing the whole mystery quilt before starting, you may want to tweak the colors and tweak the values. Because you have both the quilt and the Supernova panel. Oh, Jean, if you're out there, thank you so much for Cooper's quilt. Jean and Mrs. Abate gathered my nephew's t-shirts and made a t-shirt quilt for him, and we delivered it last week at the wedding. He's a freshman in college, so as you might imagine, in fact, we had 3 freshman nieces and nephews who met at the wedding. We had one come up from Fairfield in Connecticut, one who was right there at UMass Amherst, and then Cooper, who is at UMass Lowell, and they were all there. It was just great to see everyone. So, and Cooper, as you can imagine, being a freshman, he was so excited just to be home for a day or two. He went back to his dad's house and stayed there Saturday night. That's the other thing. This wedding was on a Friday night. I'm loving that trend because you're excited anyway for a Friday night. It's a good time to play, right? So you have this nice party. Then on Saturday, we even had breakfast there with Katie and Dave. And then, which was for the moment, we hadn't planned it, but then you get home, and usually when you get home, it's Sunday, and you have to think about the week, and you have to get, pack lunches or whatever you do on a Sunday that we all do, usually on a Sunday. We didn't have to do it because the wedding was, we were home on a Saturday, and we had a whole day. I loved it. And James and Caitlin were off to Lisbon, and I don't even know if Lisbon is in Portugal or Spain, but they're visiting both countries. I'm trying to think what other tips we could share about this quilt. Again, if you're watching this and you haven't yet, go onto Facebook and look for the Simply Colorful Mystery Quilt Along. We'd love to have you check in or like. I still, someday I'm going to take the time to learn all the different pages and types of Facebook groups there are, but somehow, if you become part of the group, which is open and public, you can then post pictures of what you're working on, you can ask questions, you can see. What's really fun is you can see everyone else's progress. It's not like a big link up. You don't have to do that once a week and do all the bloggy thing and yada, yada, yada. This is just post your picture, because we are a very small group. It's not like Pat Sloan or Bonnie Hunter or any of the big corporate quilters. I'm sort of kidding. I'm being corporate. Okay. Who's doing the splendid sampler? KK, I think you had mentioned it. Speaking of Kat Sloan, I'm loving seeing all of those blocks. That is an ambitious project. I think a block or two comes out every week, and we're well into it. I want to say it started at the beginning of the year. Oh, and I want to say shout out to Chris and Deb. They are out at the Missouri Star Quilt Company at a retreat this weekend. I hope you're having fun. The pictures looked great. And I love where you're sitting. Now, I'm getting my triangles all mixed up here. But it'll work. They're big enough. I also have an update on the studio. It is looking amazing. Bob has done all of the woodwork, including the baseboards, and today he was raising the grain and getting them ready for lacquer and vacuuming and cleaning up all the dust up there. And I've even been thinking about a layout, and it really is going to happen. Won't that be fun? We'll have a bigger, you might see behind me, we still have the Oh Baby Baby quilt, but when we get back upstairs, we'll be right back in front of that big design wall. And you know what? We'll hang this quilt for a few weeks, that's for sure. I can't wait. That was one of the first things Bob did for me 3 years ago, was he put in a bar that is on hooks up at the top of that design wall so I can hang my quilts along it. So we don't have to do this haphazard. What do you think of my sign? Staples gave that to me for free. They had made it a couple of weeks ago when I went to Staples to get a sign for the quilt show. They goofed and they made this one. Ooh, it got dirty. We're good. When they cut it, it printed fine, but then when they went to cut it, they made a mistake. So they gave me the top of it. And I like it. And I hope, I don't know about you, I hope that the irony isn't lost on the fact that the name of the company is Simply Colorful and the logo is black and white. So thanks to KB for doing that. Okay, so now I have sewn them all together, and now I'm literally going to clean them up. But first, before I clean them up, let's see who's out there. I think I have a picture or two to share from last week. Oh, and Marquet's friend. I wanted to make sure to say hi and welcome you. Oh, remember, okay. Maranius. I hope I said that right. Maranius, welcome. I have been seeing the blocks that you all have been making as part of your swap down there with Marquet, and they're beautiful. I'd love to have you join the Simply Colorful FiberCast community, and all you have to do to join is just watch every Friday night at 8 p.m. And some people play drinking games. Not really drinking games. What are they? Bragging games. If they tweet each other or they talk to each other with their cell phones, and they see how many times I say their name. So if you see me one week saying Jean 100 times, it's because she and Chris are having a little contest on the side. So feel free to do that. And if that's the case, I'm going to have to learn how to say your name so it rolls off the tongue. So welcome. You have a wonderful friend in Marquet. Remember last week when Linda from My Quilt Haven, Linda Griffin, sent a picture and it included those beautiful scissors? Remember those scissors? And I asked what kind because Wendy Nuremberg had also been using those. Well, Linda wrote back and she says, the scissors are Karen K. Buckley scissors. They have a serrated edge. I just love them. And there are 3 sizes, she says. I have all of them as they are pretty much the only scissors I use anymore. They are rather expensive but well worth it. So, again, Karen K. Buckley scissors, and those are 2 people who have told me about them. FYI. Thank you, Linda. Oh, and she goes on to talk about her singers and her machines. I love that you have 404. It's one of her favorites. It's a slant shaft like the 301. I don't have either one of those, and I would like one of those. But the motor seems stronger, and the bobbin is a drop-in 66 bobbin. It holds way more than the 301. Okay, so the 404. I'm going to keep my eyes open. She says, oh, there's Allie. She says that she uses that, her Singer treadles, and the Japanese clone machines. Her brother clone machine is her favorite, like my Ashland Sloan. And Linda says she's looking forward to seeing us Wednesday night. I hope you're out there. Hi. And bon voyage, because Linda is going to Italy for 3 weeks. She says, with the 9-hour change from California, I'm sure I won't be able to tune in, and she will catch up with us when she returns. Well, by the time you get back, the mystery will be done and fully revealed. Have a great trip. Wendy, down under, I love to hear about all of your kids and the golfing and the caravan. And she wrote last week, I don't know if I told everyone, but she wrote and she said they were literally signing the contract for the caravan last FiberCast. Plenty of room for her to sew, she says. That's great. She says, I will watch the last 3 weeks' episodes in the mystery tonight. We have been away. Well, welcome back. Let's see. Gay, I want to thank you for becoming a patron. Welcome. Welcome to the club. Joan, hi. I'm so glad that you received your fabric and that you have bought fabric to go with it. And we're thinking of you. I really am so sorry about your dog. It seems like I keep hearing of these pets are losing our pets, and it's so sad. So, but they give us such love too. So it's part of the deal, unfortunately, isn't it? And I'm glad that you're staying busy and that you're joining us. Norma, she says, hi, howdy, Lynn and everyone. Hope you all have had a nice week. Thank you. I hope you've had a nice week too. She says, I love seeing how this quilt is going together and it's going to look. I've got my color scheme and my papers ready, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the colors come together. Aww. She says, thanks so much for the project. It's like putting a puzzle together. Can't wait to see how each little section is going to look. I know, it is. And now, 6 weeks into it, I can tell you that the rest of the puzzle will be in round robin like. So there will be round robin like. There will be pieced borders, and we'll get from 57 inches to 96 by 96. Woohoo! Thanks for your note, Norma. Hi, Dawn Stewart, author of 300 Quilting Tips and Tricks, was on a bestseller list for Amazon for for a while, I was going to say many weeks, but I really don't know if it was many weeks. I was going to have a Trump moment there. Was huge! I'm kidding. Okay. Oh, I love this. Dawn says, isn't it a rule that you pack the whole studio for retreats? See? So you have a rule too? Every time I think, but what if I need it? That's so true. And Dawn says, enjoy a wonderful creative time away. Thank you. And I was so glad to see that you saw the picture of you back in, what was it, 2007, 2008, working on a charity quilt. It was, I can't believe we've been sewing together that long. And I love our sew-ins, and I'm really looking forward to doing more of those this year up at the church. So I'm going to try and do that. October is unbelievably busy, but after that, I should get into a more steady routine. And I know I keep saying that. Marquet's out there. Hello, Marquet. She says, thank you for the supernova fabric. Hello, Lynn, and happy Wednesday to all. I just wanted to let you know that I received the beautiful supernova fabric today, and it is beautiful. Thank you, and I wanted to let you know that you sure have chosen a beautiful pattern for this mystery. She says, I love it. Oh, thank you. Oh, and I printed my clues off, but only got one of each page. I did something wrong. Oh. So I will be making another trip to the library. I don't have my glasses and couldn't find the number of how many pages I needed to print, but I will get it and hopefully get to start soon. Oh, I finished the blocks for the slop and mailed them out. Good for you. That's a huge undertaking. Marquet goes on to say, she posted the album on her Facebook page. Please don't forget to say hello to Moranis Moore, and thank you for doing that. I hope I'm saying her name right. Moranis Moore. Love your hair and your shirt. Well, thank you. I decided to, like I say, I wore black and white to go with the black and the quilt. And I decided to take a shower because it's Wednesday. My husband would like it if I would do that more often on Tuesdays and Mondays too. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Do you ever listen to Adam Carolla? He claims we don't need showers and all that soap. He's probably right. It does dry your skin out. Anyway, it is Matthew. Thank you. So it's Hurricane Matthew, not whatever the other M was that I said. Ooh, and Marquet's sister lives in Clearwater. Uh-oh. Well, we'll be thinking of her. I hope she's safe. She says, Marquet says, have a great weekend. Picture blocks and one of little Abby at the pumpkin patch, and I'm running through sunflowers. She had a blast. And Marquet says, I always overpack too. I love it. Let me see. Now, for whatever reason, the pictures aren't loading right now, so I'll come back to that. Norma sent us a picture of her colors, so let's look at that. And then I think I saw a note from Leah, and then we will get back to clue 6. Oh, something's going on. It's downloading. Okay, so while that's downloading, let's trim these up. Oh, that one's done. And then we'll get to the other parts of the clue, which are pretty simple. I was talking to Carol, my sister-in-law, at the wedding, and she was telling me about her chevron quilt that has greens in it. Or it's a wall hanging, I guess. And we were talking about mats and cutting rulers, and I wanted to show you, I don't know if you can see this, Carol, but this mat is an Olfa that I left somehow in the heat, and it bubbled up. So I think you can see it there. See how it bubbles up right there? And I can't seem to get it to flatten down, which is a shame because it's a big mat. So I'm working around it. I've done that before by leaving one of these mats in the car. Like if you leave it in the back window there, sun will do a number and just makes the plastic melt. I guess it probably melts it. And then when it cools down, it's waffly. Anyway, I will keep my eye open for those Joann's coupons, and I highly recommend a bigger mat that we were talking about. I think you'll find it's much more satisfying because sometimes you really do need to use your big ruler, and you do have fabric that can be 45 inches long. Of course, you do it in half, so it's 22, 23. That was not a good cut. Oh, this was funny. You know how we've been doing paper piecing for 6 weeks? On our next step, we literally are going to cut out fabric without the use of paper, and then we have to sew it. And I found myself, I put it, the first one under my needle, and I thought to myself, ooh, where do I sew? I'm used to having a line to sew on. That made me laugh. And then it immediately made me think, ooh, where's that machine that has the laser light that comes down on what you're sewing? That's what I need. Okay, there are corner 2s. So I'm going backwards. 4 corner 2s done. Now let's do our corner 1s. Oh, and Allie is on a cruise. I don't know if you all have seen that. So we have Wendy in a caravan, several of you in caravans. We have Jean trying to win a caravan. I saw there's something floating around that you can win an RV. Sarah is shopping for caravans. I'm kidding. If Steve's listening, she hasn't bought one yet. And then, let's see. Must be a good vacation time. Although I was reading, I cannot believe this. 12 Mondays now, might even be 11, between now and Christmas. Has anyone started thinking about it? I confess I have. I couldn't help it. Well, yes, I could help it. Sunday afternoon, because we got home on Saturday, so of course I had plenty of time to do my chores and play. And so by Sunday afternoon, the studio was looking so good. Bob works on that studio. He has hundreds of hours in on that studio. It's just a masterpiece. I feel so lucky. And so by Sunday afternoon, I decided to go to the furniture store to look at furniture to see if I could get some ideas. Because I would like, I think, which is kind of funny, because of course I didn't buy a thing. I was just looking. But several of you have shared your studio ideas, which I love. And I think I want like an island where we film FiberCast. So I'll be sitting up at an island, and the quilt will be behind me, and hopefully the camera angle will be a little bit wider so you'll be able to see everything from cutting to ironing to the sewing. And I won't have all the things behind me that I used to. Underneath the island there will be some shelves where I can put things. So anyway, it was fun to go look. Why did I bring that up? Oh, and then on the way back from the furniture store, I stopped at Ocean State Job Lot. Okay. And there was a reason I was telling you that. Something I bought. I can't remember what it was. Okay. Let's pull out the clue. I'm doing way too much talking, not enough sewing. Okay. We are finished with page 3. We've made our diamonds. Put those aside. Now, pull out color G. For me, color G is a very dark gray / black. It has stripes on it or like brush strokes on it. I like it. And then cut out 8 pieces that are 3 inches by 5 inches, which I already did, and put those aside. Then cut out 32 pieces that are 3 inches by 5 3/4. These are what we're going to use next. Okay, so cut those out, and yes, it does have to be 3 by 5 3/4. And the reason is, you may remember back on clue 2, we made the echo outer blocks. Remember all of these on clue 2? And you thought, what are we doing? Well, and they're not square. Now what we have to do is literally find the long edge, which should also measure 5 3/4, and we need to sew a piece of the G block on. So I've done one on the brown corners and one on the yellow corners, and we need 16 of each of these. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do next. And this also is a great candidate for chain piecing. Just the tricky part on this one is that the squares aren't square, that these blocks that we made aren't square. So we just have to make sure, and you'll know because it won't fit right. And I am pinning. And this was the this was the step when I was a little verklempt because it didn't have the built-in line on it. I laughed. So I had to go back and use my 1/4 inch foot there and there. Oh, and I'm going to move my stitch length up again. I don't need it to be paper piecing thin. And I don't think I need to, well, I need to pin these. I am. Maybe one in the middle. Let me see if those pictures have downloaded. It could very well be my system here. But I want to see Abby. Ooh, and I want to see Norma's colors. Oh, they're not coming through. Ooh. So this is like being in Jean's basement. When we went over there, when I was learning from her really how to do the t-shirt quilt and watching her mostly, we would be sending pictures to our friends or texting, and we'd be going like this, trying to get the signal, and that's what I'm doing here, and it's going around and around and around. Ah, Leah, but I do see Leah. Hi. She says, sewing along on my SS blocks, Storm at Sea blocks, and watching live. She says, the layout for Clue 6 is just beautiful. It looks like a stained glass or even a kaleidoscope effect. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Thanks for letting me know that. I can't wait for you to see the rest. And keep on sewing. Hey, Linda! must not be on flight yet to Italy. She says, hi, I'm watching tonight. I got the mystery fabric cut and pulled most of my fabrics. And she says, once I return, I'll be ready to get this mystery done. I'm excited to see the center completed tonight. Uh-oh. Thanks and ciao. Ciao, Linda. I don't think it'll be completed tonight. But I like that enthusiasm. I said to Bob tonight, I'm officially overloaded because in addition to this, I don't know if I told you what else I'm doing. Not that you really, it's all fun. So I'm working my full-time job during the day. And then for Textile Tarts, October happens to be the month that Kathy Collins and I are writing the newsletter, and we're making a doll that goes along with our theme, a Native American doll. So of course she did all the research and I think is writing the main article. So I said I would work on the doll design. Have I done that? No. Then another program we're doing with the Textile Tarts is we're doing an online class making the It's My Party doll, paper, clay, and fabric, from Rosanna Pereira. I'm not saying her name right. I'll say it next week. She's designed a class. 8 of us are taking it online. And don't you know, I get a note today, so we've gotten our supply list and lesson number 1, and we're meeting on November 12th. We're all supposed to work on it by ourselves, and then we'll meet on November 12th and see how far we've gotten and what we need together. And we've asked her to actually possibly Skype with us and do something. Don't you know, I get a note today saying she lives down in the path of Hurricane Matthew. So she will get back to us in a few days. So we have that to do. And let's see, Art Is, which I've already told you about, and the 2 classes I'm taking there. The new studio, definitely I want to take time to just design that right. Because I want to have like stations. So I want it to be very accommodating for 4 artists at a time. And Bob has already put a place in the middle of the room for us to plug in our machines. And then around the outside, I want to have a pressing station, a cutting station, and then a doll making workbench. Ah! And I've got it all planned. I know what I'm going to do. Oh, and then if I have room, but see, this is, I might have to sacrifice this. I wanted a couple of sitting chairs like Chris has in her studio. Oh, see, no, that's the wrong. Let's see. Yep, I almost did that wrong. So can't believe how fast the hour's going. I'm clearly not going to finish this, so let me see what else is left on the clue. Let's see what we're doing. We're just chaining these along. Yay. And we'll cut and iron them. And we'll do 16 of the yellow and 16 of the brown. And then what we're going to do is sew 8 of them together like this, alternating the yellow and the brown. And follow the picture, because you'll notice if we go to, actually I'm going to skip over skipping to page 7, we're going to put these aside for a minute, but when you get back, you're going to notice that the top of the quilt starts with the brown and then goes yellow, brown, yellow, brown, yellow, brown, yellow. The bottom of the quilt starts with the yellow and goes across. So top starts with brown, bottom starts with yellow. Similarly, the sides, top here on the left starts with yellow, the top on the right starts with brown. And the reason being it forms a circle. So your eye goes, you don't have two yellows together here in the corner. Anyway, that's why. But you sew 8 together on each 4 side. And then, this is where these colors are just going to pop. On 4 of these, you're going to sew that black on both sides, along with, actually, let me make one of these. Let me make a corner here. I'll show you what I mean. These, I'm using the 3" by 5.5" squares. There. And I'm going to take one of my little corners. So just taking my big corner, taking a little corner. We have that. Oh, how refreshing this is going to be with these big pieces. I'm literally going to sew that together, nesting my seams with the top seam facing up so that the machine does the work and just nests them beautifully. And I am pinning it. Okay. There and there. All right. So I know I jumped ahead here, but this way you get to see what one of the corners looks like. Let's put those down. Okay, and when it gets, that's going to be a corner. So that's going to be in each of the 4 corners. Okay, so we need to do 4 of those, but I wanted to print that. We still need to do more of these. Leave those aside. Let me look here, make sure we don't run out of time, and we are just on the time. So in conclusion, I'm going to keep us a minute or two just to make sure we wrap up well. Again, Clue 6, it's available on simplycolorful.com. It's available on Facebook, on the Simply Colorful Quilt Along. All of the paper piecing patterns are there, as are the rotary cutting instructions and templates if you prefer to do it that way. We have made 12 of these, the Echo inner blocks. We made 4 corner 1s, the little blocks. We made 4 corner 2s, the big blocks. We cut out fabric G We cut out 40 pieces. 8 of them were 3 by 5.5 inches. 32 of them were 3 by 5 3/4 inches. We're sewing these on the bottom of our Echo Outer blocks, all of them. Then on page 5, 5 and 6, we did not do tonight, but I want you to do it once you get all of these pieces made. That's where the real magic is going to happen. It's going to be really fun. I did it this morning. I cut out just some blank spots where my weather vane blocks would go, and it looked cool. So this weekend I'm going to finish my weather vane, and I'm going to sew it all together, and next week I will have it all sewn for you. If you get to that point, absolutely post it. I cannot wait to see your inner blocks, your bursts. We're going to call that the burst part. So do that. Follow these descriptions. You always want the supernova to burst outward on all of your blocks. And then we talked about putting all of the pieces together. Once you make the burst, put this in 4 corners, and then sew these in units of 8 together, alternating yellow and brown, and put them to create the border. I want to thank you all for joining me here on the Simply Colorful FiberCast. It's thanks to you that we can keep doing this. It's thanks to you that we're almost done with our 3rd year. And I couldn't be happier to be doing this with you. So thank you again for joining. Have a great week wherever your week is taking you. Have a great weekend, and I'll touch base after Art is You next week. Bye, everyone. Where's my mouse? Okay.